What's going on, guys? Got a really quick, or hopefully quick knife, not really a review, maybe like a display. I've already done a review of my Solo V2, so there's a couple of comparisons that I want to make on this Solo V5, and kind of just show a little bit of what Eric is doing with his most recent runs of his Direware projects. Right now, Eric offers 3 different knives in his repertoire. The first is the Solo, and then there's the Hyper 90, and then there's a S90, which is a smaller version, if you will, of the Solo knife. A while back, I did a review on the Solo V2 right here. This one's got the dark tumbled wash on the frame side, as well as the dark acid wash blade, and then the full carbon fiber scale. Just absolutely beautiful, huge chunk of carbon fiber. And then I was fortunate enough to get my first order from a custom maker, if you will, on the Hyper 90. So I got the full bronze titanium. Just love the look of bronze titanium with the dark acid stonewash. I think Eric's method of doing acid stonewash is absolutely amazing. It's so black. I don't have any knives on me with acid stonewash that I've done myself, but it doesn't come out nearly as dark. You get a lot of the stonewash look to it. This one, it's almost like you get like kind of scraping all through the knife, and it's pretty uniform and it looks really great. So that, coupled with that bronze titanium, was one of my favorite looks of any knife. I modeled, Jake's. This is my A10 from Jake, and I asked him to do something similar with the bronze titanium and acid stonewash, and Jake did a phenomenal job with it. But I definitely like the acid stonewash on Eric's Direware. It's a little bit more. So anyway, I had the chance to get on the order books again with Eric on his most recent release, and it was right before he kind of had a bunch of these different, even like more options. But I was lucky enough to be able to get in on some of the, at least some of the newer options that he had. Before, with the Solos, outside of some custom ones or custom runs that he did, for the most part, all you could get was a recurve blade with carbon fiber. That was a while back, and then later on I think he had the full titanium with the Hyper 90. But in this one, he offered a lot of different finishes, whether it was like a stippling pattern or I can't remember what the dot patterns were on it. I can check here really quick. No, we had like little slot patterns on here. Then he has inlay pattern, and then he also has, at the time he used to have a bolster pattern. Now he only has an inlay pattern, so it makes me a little bit more bummed that I got rid of my other knife, because I ordered another Solo with the bolsters, and now that one's gone. I sold it off. So really unfortunate, but this quickly became my favorite version. I ended up getting the Wharcliffe version, not the Hawkbill. So before, his Hawkbill was considered his Wharcliffe, so I know it's a little bit confusing. But I got the true Wharcliffe blade with the new flipper tab versus that large recurved or large curved flipper tab. And then I got the Fullers inset on the frame, on the back as well, or on the lock side. And then I had to opt to get the Mokutai clip as well, which is quite a chunk of change, but I just couldn't pass it up. It was too good to pass up. So particularly with this knife, I just love the lines of it, because the lines of the Wharcliffe match the lines with the Fullers exactly. So it's exactly parallel with these Fullers, and I just felt like that lineup just works so well with this knife. For here, it's got really deep jimps on the blade, so you can really come up for fine cutting tasks. Normally the standard for his blades are M through 90. At the time when he was offering these blades, he had a small supply of S110V as well as a supply of Damascus, and so for this one I ended up going with the 110V on here. So the other thing, well, I'll talk about that as I kind of move into this next section of this video. So that's pretty much all the different details of this particular knife in terms of the materials and the finish and whatnot. In terms of the differences on the V5 versus the V2 or V4, really the biggest difference is the thickness. You know, Direwares, when they first came out, when I was first introduced to these knives, they were, I mean, part of the appeal was the, you know, the whole hard use thing, that trend way back then. And to an extent, it's, you know, still going on now, but not as much. Really, the only ones that are carrying the market for hard use are, I would say, Direware, and then Dalibor, Dalibor Bergam from Croatia, and then also Jake Hoback out in Idaho now. It's not Texas anymore. So, but I think that trend kind of died. I mean, people still love Dalibors and people still love Direware and Hobacks, but you know, I think people kind of complained a little bit that Direwares were a little too thick. You know, it's hard to EDC this in your jean pockets. You know, it fills up and pretty much fills up the entire pocket due to how thick it is, and then also how, you know, wide the actual frame is as well, with that blade sitting in here. And the width of the blade didn't necessarily change, but the thickness of the entire handle and blade, you know, that changed. You can see a significant difference between that carbon fiber and this frame side here. You know, I'm not sure exactly how much is cutting out, but Eric did advertise on his site that it was 25% thinner than his previous generations. And so what you get is a really nice feeling handle. You know, even though it's still wide, you know, the fact that it's not as thick kind of allows you to get a better grip on it, if you will. Not to say that this is uncomfortable, but especially on my Hyper 90 just feels like a chunk. I feel like I'm holding a rock. You know, and the blade is not all that long. So anyway, with the Hyper 90, he also changed it up. This was the first knife to change up, you know, the original standoffs. So I can't show it on here because I actually replaced it. I replaced what he did was he put a acid washed, or actually on the Hypers it was a full satined 440C backspacer, and it had some gear patterning to it. I put the Hinder standoffs in here just to change it up a little bit. It saves a couple what tenths of an ounce or something like that. But you know, typically Eric used these titanium standoffs in his blades or on his knife handles, and he changed that to that 440C spacer. But he does give you the option of having a darkened one, kind of so that it fits the look of the blade. So I'm not sure exactly what his reasons for that were. Definitely for a knife like this, you don't need 5 standoffs. You know, many of these knives just require 1 standoff because the materials are so thick. But that's kind of just how Eric was running, and now he's kind of simplified it so that's just 2 screws going through a small 440C backspacer. I think what I would like, you know, right now as I'm looking at his website, he does offer these Mokutai clips that you can just buy straight up from him. But I think it'd be really cool if he offered Mokutai backspacers as well. So that'd be a cool option to have in the future. But anyway, so, you know, Eric's flipping action on his knives are absolutely incredible. This, for me, this one and the Hyper are the 2 most authoritative and just hardest flippers out there. The detents are amazing, and they just rock it out. Again, for me, I've never flipped a RJ Martin Q36. I've heard those are like the definition of what flippers should be like, but if it's anything like this, then I'd definitely be impressed. So anyway, I'm rambling up a little too long on here, but those are really the thinness of the whole knife as a whole, and then the 440C standoff, and then the different blade and frame options that he has. Those are really the coolest changes about the new Direwares out there. So if you are lucky enough to get on the books with Eric for any of the knives, really the Solo, the Hyper, or the S90, for me the Solo is my favorite version. It's 3.4 inch blades, so that's kind of like my happy median. The S90 and the Hyper are sub 3-inch blades, so it's a little bit small for me. I would definitely prefer the extra ½ inch on there. So anyway, thanks a lot guys for watching. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. And I'll just see you guys on the next vid. Take care. Bye.